I'm Cheryl Ann Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for those of us who still dare to want it all, who have big dreams and bold ambitions. I think we deserve to have a big, full life and the freedom to enjoy it. So let's design our next chapter together for brilliance, not burnout. Each week, I'll bring ideas, insight, and a fresh perspective to keep you growing into a life that feels as good as it looks. Brilliant Balance, your life, your way. Now let's get started. This is episode 422 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. Today, we're making holiday choices work for you. So hello, friends, and welcome back. Today, we are going to get into something that I think sneaks up on all of us every year, even though it happens at the exact same time every year, and that is the holidays. You know, the ones that we're supposed to look forward to with all the sparkling lights and the perfectly decorated cookies and the Pinterest-worthy array of gifts. I think we know what the memo is. Like, we all got handed the assignment years ago for most of us. But I think for a lot of us, it's also started to feel more like a full-time job that has 0 vacation days, right? You're just cramming it all in there on top of your existing job, on top of your year-round family responsibilities. So by December 26th or so, you're wondering if you even like your family that much, right? And I think what we want to do today is remind you of sort of a timeless message in this Brilliant Balance community, which is you don't have to do everything. You actually have full permission to make choices. And the things that you do choose to do, you don't have to handle all by yourself. And I mean that honestly, right? You actually can enjoy this season along with everyone else without collapsing into a puddle of exhaustion every day, every week, right? At the end of the season. I mean, how many of you listening would say like, yeah, I've gotten sick at some point during the holidays over the last few years because I ran myself into the ground in the weeks leading up to it. And then when I finally had that week off from work, I spent a lot of it on the couch or in bed or blowing my nose or, worse, because my immune system was finally like, "Whew, we're going to take a break. Great. This is a super time for me to get sick." And I think we are unintentional contributors to this pattern that we fall into every single year. And I really think it's important that when we're here on the front end of this season, and we still have a chance to influence how it goes, that we take a minute to really consider a few things. So I want us to consider how we contribute to our own overwhelm, right? Where are we actually our own worst enemy? That's going to be a topic today. I want to give you permission to break with tradition in places where that tradition may not be serving you or your family very well. I definitely want to remind you that you don't have to do everything yourself. We're going to talk about that. And I really want to give you some practical ideas for things that can create efficiency during your holidays. I have a couple of resources I can link you to on that. And I think that what this comes down to at its core is beginning with a definition or maybe a clarification of what really matters the most to you. There just isn't one right way to holiday. There isn't even a right way to do it in one family. Like, I think we often can easily acknowledge and respect, like, there's differences from family to family in how, heck, there's differences in which holiday we celebrate, right? But there's differences in how we celebrate the holidays, but there can be differences from year to year. There can be differences from chapter to chapter inside of your own family of what makes sense. And I'm always inspired when I hear from women in this community who are instituting new traditions. They're modifying the ones that were handed down to them, simplifying, refining into really what matters the most and what works the best for them and for their kiddos and for, their extended family and for this era of history. Like, what is the core? And then maybe what are like some of the fun extras that we want to add in because this particular year they sound great, but they don't necessarily sound great every year. Okay. So let's start kind of where I ended, which is what matters most to you. I think this is the heart of it. I want you to ask yourself, what do you actually want to feel during this holiday season, right? Do you want to feel connected to the people that you're spending it with? Do you want to feel more of a sense of calm and peace? Like those are core holiday words, right? Peace and calm. Do you want to feel that instead of just writing it in a card? Do you want to feel joy, like that up energy of like, this is so fun and everything is sparkly and brightly colored? Do you want to feel like a sophisticated, refined vibe? Right? Everybody's talking about a Ralph Lauren Christmas this year. Do you want to have that vibe going on in your home? Do you want to have a really natural vibe or feeling? Do you want things to be pretty, like bringing the outdoors in and actually taking advantage of the natural beauty of this season, more of like the winter idea? I think there's such important questions of what is at the heart of it for you. How do you want to feel? And then like what matches that, right? What lights you up? When you think about all the things you could do and prioritize during this season, which ones really light you up? Which ones sound completely draining? Right? When you're like, oh, when I think about doing this thing that we do every year, I'm so drained. That I want you to pay attention to so that you can decide, what are you going to keep? What are you going to let go of? Where are you maybe going to bring in some support to execute, right? Because being choiceful about what you do, you could translate this as doing less, is not a failure. Far from it, right? It is a strategy. It's intentionality. It's protecting your energy so that you can create the magic. And I think it's really, really important that we think about what are the pieces of these traditions or elements of a holiday that, first of all, that we want at all. And then if we want it at all, do we really want to execute and do it ourselves completely? Or do we want to let some other people into that process? And those could be other people who live in your house who are willing to be involved in the process. It also could be people that you hire to do this work. I don't know about you, but my whole neighborhood has other people putting up the lights, right? There's a service that ran through here a few years ago, and there's a very particular kind of light that they're putting on everyone's houses. They come in like October, y'all, to start this process. And we did it one year. There are many, many, many people in my neighborhood who have used them every year since. They're beautiful, but they are not involved in the process. They just like come home one day and boom, the lights are up. And I have these memories of my dad laboring over putting up holiday lights for, seemingly forever. And our family doing that as well. And it's a choice about, is that something we want to do ourselves? Do we want to do it really elaborately? Do we want to be simple? Do we want to outsource it? Like there's not one right way to do this. So deciding really what matters to you in your season and defining like a short list of what matters the most, I think is the starting point of being able to make holiday choices that really work for you instead of against you. Because the truth is, we do contribute to our own overwhelm, right? A lot of holiday stress is self-created. You overcommit, I overcommit, we all overcommit. And why do we do it? We do it out of habit. We do it out of guilt. We do it out of the fear of disappointing someone that we love, or maybe the idea that doing more makes us better, or more lovable or more impressive. And then we scroll Instagram and see everyone else with their picture perfect lights and their homemade cookies, and we feel like we're failing before we even start. So I think it's really important that we're honest with ourselves. Let me be honest. There have been years where I have gone so overboard with holiday baking in the name of gift giving, right? There was an era where I was making expansive, like baskets of holiday cookies. And this was not just one year. This was an entire era. Not just like a little plate, like a full basket of various homemade breads and cookies and rolls that we were giving to every single person who worked for me. This is back in my corporate job, and every single person who worked for my husband. And we had fairly extensive teams at the time. And this just became a project that took on a life of its own. It started when it was a couple people. It was fine. It was light. I loved doing it. And then the longer it continued into, I had kids and we had big teams. Like I didn't know how to get out from under the weight of that tradition. And one year I finally was like, this has to end. Like this was really fun while it lasted. I love that we did it, and it's over. you know, same thing with like neighbors. Like I was doing these elaborate gifts for neighbors. And there was a point where that was really fun. Then it wasn't. And I was able to simplify that tradition into something that matched like this season of life that I'm in. Okay. So you do not have to be a victim of holiday chaos. You're sometimes probably the architect of it. And that means you get to redesign it. Right. And that is the power of knowing that you're holding the cards on this, is that you can make changes that fit your life right now. So this is your permission slip to break with tradition. Okay. This gets really fun, I promise. The reminder is that traditions actually exist to serve you and your family. They're only as good as the kind of heart-centeredness of executing them. It's not really the other way around. So you have permission to change up those traditions so that they are still meaningful and manageable. They have to be both. If the tradition is meaningful, but it is killing everybody to execute it, it doesn't really work anymore. Okay. So there are a lot of holiday traditions. There are food related traditions. There are entertainment, like the annual holiday party that you host. There's the card tradition, right? Oh my gosh, all of the pieces around the cards. Don't even get me started on the annual holiday family photo. That is its own particular brand of chaos. But there are ways to simplify everything from the entertaining and food to the holiday cards to the gifting, because that we do not have to continue to make it bigger and better and more complicated every year. I have a client this year who lost her dad. It's been a very difficult season. And this is a year where she's like, we're not going to do the holiday traditions that we're used to doing. We are going to go on a big family vacation. And that is going to be the holiday. And we're going to enjoy the holiday decor from our town and our surrounding environment, but we're not going to get into it in our own home. And that's probably not a forever decision, but it's a decision I'm making this year to simplify and to kind of meet the moment of where we are as a family. I think that's beautiful. I mean, could you give yourself permission to do that? I think it's such courage. And I'm so proud of her for executing that. Right? You get to curate your holiday this year. You and your family get to choose what brings joy, and you get to let go of the rest. Did you know that beyond hosting this podcast, I also directly support women leaders at the intersection of work and life? As a member of BOLD, you get direct access to me, the women on my team, and a peer group of exceptional women who are rewriting the rules and redefining what it means to have it all together. Go to brilliant-balance.com/bold to learn more and apply for your spot today. And letting go of some things actually makes room for more spontaneous moments during the holidays. It's more fun, more connection, more laughter. I promise you, the season actually gets lighter when you let go of some of these things that have made it feel heavy. It doesn't get emptier. It just creates space for new things to emerge. And I think, if I'm honest, breaking with tradition, it's going to stir up some emotion. Maybe for you, maybe for some people that you love. If you say, hey, this is the year we're not going to do this thing, you can feel guilt or anxiety, or you could be worried that someone's going to judge you, right? Lean into that. Lean into that, because this is a place to practice that skill that actually could be valuable to you in so many other places. And I think because we know we're so overloaded at the holidays, it's a good place to start, right? It's a good place to start. And it doesn't even mean that you have to get rid of something altogether. You could just find a simpler way to execute it. Like, I've talked about this before during the holidays. There was a point where my family moved from we're buying a gift for everyone to doing a family gift exchange. This is not my immediate family. Trust me, my kids are getting tons of gifts. But the idea of extended families saying, we're going to exchange names instead of every person buying a gift for everyone else. If you haven't already adopted that, what kind of lightness does that open up for you? To think about, wow, if we did it that way, how would that simplify things? There are so many ways when you start looking for these of ways that you can really make the holidays your own. And you don't have to do the same things every single year. You can cycle in and out of different ideas. My family several years ago, went to New York City. We took the kids to New York City at Christmas. It was something that my oldest daughter at the time was really intrigued by. And I honestly thought, well, we'll never do that again. It's like a one and done. And we're going to do it this year. And we're now my youngest daughter really, really wants to go. So we're going to do a few days before the Christmas holiday this year. And I'm super excited about it because we haven't done it every single year, right? It's been a minute since we had that experience. And so we'll have it with fresh eyes. We're seeing different shows. We're having different experiences. We'll eat at different restaurants, like all of that. And the kids are different ages. So it's a completely fresh experience to have at this juncture than the one that we had before. I think it would have been different if we're like, well, this is the thing we do every single year, right? All right. Another idea that I want to get into today are what are some of the efficiency creators, right? What are the ways that you can build a little bit of efficiency into this? And the frame I want you to think about here is the holidays really are a project. Okay. We don't ever think about it that way because somehow we think that diminishes the magic. There's a lot of magic in this season, but there's also a lot of work, right? The idea of planning for all of those things I've been mentioning, getting cards out, hosting a holiday party, decorating your home, giving gifts to people. If these things are part of your tradition, travel, all of those things take planning. They take work. And we try to run that on top of an already very full plate of year-round responsibilities, right? The kids are still going to school. We're still going to work. We're still running our day in and day out household. But now we're trying to run this big project called the holidays for 6 to 8 weeks on top of that. And I think when we don't create space for it and we don't look for efficiencies the same way we would in any other project, we can get crushed under the weight of having all this extra work and kind of no place to put it. So this is when I start hearing from women, oh my gosh, I'm not getting any sleep. I've stopped working out. I haven't eaten anything but cookies for 5 days. Everything just goes out the window because we've forgotten that this, to do it well, requires space. Okay. So if you want to fit it in, thinking about some of those same project management tools can be helpful, like having a master plan. What are all the things I am going to do during this season? Literally which week on the calendar am I doing them? Do I have some milestones and deadlines that I need to hit? So to not have everything be a last minute crunch. How am I going to use delegation, right? Think about a team of people who are executing. How can I use delegation? How can I do things like batching some of these tasks so that all the wrapping is happening in one day, or all the decorating is happening, or all the baking is happening in more of a batch process versus I'm letting it spread out over weeks and weeks, and then it's just crushing, right? It's overwhelming. Where can I take a few shortcuts that allow the tasks associated with this project to just take less time? Something like gift bags instead of wrapping, right? You want to save. I love to wrap a gift. It's one of my favorite parts of the holidays. And that's probably weird. Not everybody loves that. I love doing it. It's one of my favorite parts of the holidays is getting out my wrapping table, choosing the wrapping paper for the season, what's the kind of array of wrapping papers I'm going to use, the ribbons I want to use, turning on a holiday movie, pouring a glass of champagne, and wrapping. It's one of my favorite times of the whole season. But if you hate it and you can go grab a bunch of gift bags or have the gifts delivered unwrapped, and there's so many ways to simplify the pieces of this process that we don't like to save room for the parts that we really do, right? To create space for the parts that we really love. So thinking about it like a project, finding those efficiencies, thinking kind of outside the box on maybe the way that you've done things before so that things really can have a little bit of efficiency on the pieces that matter less to you, hugely important. And again, in order to do that, you have to know what matters most to you because you're going to lean hard into the things that you like the best or that are most important to your family. And then you're going to cut corners on purpose in the other places. It's a both and. Now, remember, I mentioned that a lot of this can bring up some feelings, and I think probably no time more than at the holidays because we are so attached to some of these traditions. And so just know that even when you're making these choices, even if you feel very clear-minded about them, some feelings will come up. right? You'll feel guilt because your mom is disappointed or your mother-in-law is disappointed, or you'll be worried that your kids will be let down, or, that your cousins who you only see at the holidays and you've made the choice not to go to this particular thing this year will be disappointed. And that is possible, right? It is possible that in order to keep your own sanity intact, keep your own energy level high, that not every single person in your entire orbit is going to be thrilled with your decisions. And I'm going to encourage you to make the choice anyway, because what's on the other side of that is freedom. What's on the other side of that is you and your immediate family being able to have the experience that they really want or need to have. So I want you to practice saying, I am allowed to choose what works for me. I am allowed to say no. I am allowed to ask for help, right? I'm allowed to create the holiday that I want. That may sound radical to you, but when you get there and you start saying it, it feels amazing. This is the gift that you can give yourself during this holiday season, is permission to prioritize the things that really matter to you, okay? To choose the elements of this holiday season that make the holidays work for you. And as you sit here today, I want you to ask yourself, were the holidays really ever about doing it all? When you go from Thanksgiving, as we head into that, through the Christmas and Hanukkah and other winter holidays, all the way through to the celebration of the new year, are they really about doing it all? Or are they about being connected with the people that we love most? I think at the core of all of these holiday traditions is connection, right? Over perfection. If we can hold that the thing that matters to us the most is having a connected experience during this season, not a perfect experience, right? Not an experience in which we checked every single box and we're exhausted crossing the finish line, but we were snappish to everybody around us because we were exhausted and we hadn't eaten anything but cookies, right? And we were cranky about it. And nothing that we wanted to do was actually getting done. And imagine how it would feel instead if you were really warm and deeply present for the people that you care about because you had made these choices to curate the holidays down to their essence. And you were secure in those choices, right? Because they were aligned. That's the spirit of everything we're teaching at Brilliant Balance, really. And I think the holidays are just a great time to practice them. So if you have been in this community for a while, you may have already taken a look at, there's a holiday guide that I've published for a number of years at this time of year. I will make sure I link it in the show notes. If you want a bit of a kind of, call it a project plan, right? Something that you can follow during these upcoming weeks to make these choices and keep you on track, I will link that for you in the show notes. If you've gotten it in previous years, it's something that we've done before. So pull it out, right? Pull out your guide and really take a look at, how do I wrap my head around this whole thing so that it doesn't sneak up on me and I don't end up kind of falling ill as we are heading toward the new year because I've overdone it yet again, right? This year really can be different if you give yourself permission for it to be. So pass this episode on to someone who needs it. You know that you have people in your life who need this reminder. Pass this episode on to them and download your guide if it's helpful. Thanks for tuning in today. That's all for today, my friends. Till next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.